I'm Lauren, and I'm learning all of the stitches in the Royal School of Needlework Book of Embroidery, so you can too. Today we're going to be working on heavy chain stitch, and this time we're going to be doing a 2-for-1 special because I actually really wanted to be learning the Hungarian braided chain stitch, and while RSN has it in their online stitch bank, which is free, it is not technically in either of the published books, so I am cheating a little bit. However, heavy chain stitch is really similar, and actually I kind of see it as like a stepping stone to get to the more advanced technique for the Hungarian braided chain. So to start with the heavy chain sample, we're going to make a single straight stitch coming up at point A and coming down at point B. Then I'm going to come up at point C a stitch lengths away, loop my needle under my straight stitch, pull the thread all the way through, and then come down at point D back at our original point C. I'm going to repeat that second part, coming up a stitch lengths away, going to loop my needle back through our straight stitch anchor, and then plunge the needle back down in the same hole where we came up for this most recent loop. For my fourth stitch, I'm going to come up a stitch lengths away, and then instead of tucking it under the original straight stitch, I'm going to go under both of my previous loops. So we're stacking 2 chains on top of each other, and looping underneath your 2 previous chains is kind of what sets this piece apart from what we'll be doing next. You'll continue like that all the way down the line, and then you end up with this braided look. I did mess up a little bit towards the bottom, but this is just a sample, so I think we can all agree we just don't have to talk about it. We're going to start the Hungarian braided chain in the very same way by making our singular straight stitch at the top and looping our second stitch underneath that anchor point. But now here is where things will change compared to the last technique. For my third stitch and second chain, I am going to loop through our anchor point, but I'm going to leave some slack in the thread, making sure not to pull it all the way through. Using my finger to help secure a little slack bow, I'm going to start the next stitch, and I'm only going to be looping the needle through our center chain. Before pulling the needle through, I'm going to take our little thread tail and pull all the way top. Now I can continue with our new technique by keeping our slack loop, starting on the next chain, and making sure to only pull my needle underneath that center stitch. I don't know why, but there's always something so satisfying about pulling that loop tight. I'd also say this is a pretty beginner-friendly stitch. Even if you accidentally pull your loop all the way through, you can always loosen it up before starting the next one. And I actually found finding where I needed to loop my needle was a little bit easier than with the heavier chain stitch, where those stitches were just kind of like laid on top of each other. So it was a little difficult to tell if I was getting under both. Now I did run out of thread before I was able to finish the shape, so I took an extra needle to use as our placeholder and finished off my stitch to tie off the back. Now with the new thread, I could come up a stitch lengths away and loop it underneath, taking out our placeholder needle and continuing on with our technique as if nothing happened. One last note as we finish, this is one of those techniques where the braiding really just adds so much to the texture, and you do lose that when you're using super dark colors, so just something worth keeping in mind. Maybe I'm just too far gone as an embroidery nerd at this point, but hot dog, don't those lines just look so thick compared to the heavy chain. And as always, if you're interested in the book or need more supplies, the links are in the bio.